Hello, hello. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. This is episode number 141, and I am the host, Mandie Brice. I'm super excited to share with you a story of Jessica Ciampini, who I think has gone through just about everything one could possibly gone through, from drug addiction to hospitalization to being a survivor of sexual assault to homelessness, all the way through being an entrepreneur, an author, and having a couple businesses in Canada and about to move to sunny Miami. Super excited for her. Of course, she tells her story better than I do, so make sure you listen and stay tuned to the end because she is giving away a copy of one of her books. So stay tuned so you can hear how you win that. But without further ado, here is my chat with Jessica Ciampini. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. I am with someone who I think we've been following each other on Instagram for quite a while, so I feel like I'm finally sort of meeting her digitally from across the country. But welcome to Jessica Ciampini.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mandie. It's a pleasure seeing you now, finally on video.
Yeah, it's like electronically meeting each other. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, of course, you know that the name of the show is Bold Moves, and you've made plenty of your own. So why don't you share with us your story and the different bold moves that you've made that you think kind of earned you your spot here on the show today?
Well, I actually have the most recent bold move that I'm moving to Miami in May.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's the biggest bold move for me. That's the most recent one. But going back into yeah, exactly. That's in the future for sure. What happened? So in the past, a lot of bold moves that I definitely accomplished was building a business. So one of my businesses, JC Fitness, here in Toronto. I've also built a real estate and contracting business myself. So doing that, but there's a lot of different things and depending on what topics, but I'd never really found that leash of where I want it to be. So saying all these things that I've accomplished so much in such a short period of time, whether it was me I wrote my first ebook and I'm working on my second book as well. And I've discovered so much about myself. I would say that the last year of really what I needed to do to get on to that bold move of accomplishing really what my purpose is. So I feel like the last 4 years, accomplishing so much after being in a tragic state for myself and during depression. I had severe depression, anxiety. I was really sick at one point because I led myself to a hospital being overdosed on drugs within myself. So I've taken several things and also abusive relationships and abusing myself. So not really able to find where I belonged in this world or my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the biggest thing for me. Even today, it's so compelling of how I set my day and who I really am in this world and what my purpose is because of my blueprint of being sitting laying in a hospital bed and putting yourself and doing that to yourself, but not consciously being aware of it. So the things they're so exciting as time progressed. The last 2 years, I would say, it's been very, how can I put it? There was a lot of self-development that I did. And I always say I'm a student of life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for the ways to plant the seed and challenge myself and going back last year when I wrote my book, it wasn't a big. I'm always almost hard on myself. I always say this to people. I'm it wasn't a big deal, and because it was for me it was a small thing because I have these really high expectations. And again, going back to why I have that, it's because of the blueprint of me growing up without having my family for. It's been since I was 17. It's been a long time. So I was always hard on myself and I had to build myself where I am today. And I'm not quite there yet. I'm not there, but that's, so I think that sort of briefly puts it together.
Yes, that's definitely brief. And it's funny because as you were finishing up, I was thinking to myself, usually or sometimes when I'm asking people for their stories, they go and get into great detail on stuff that, might not be as relevant to the bold moves that we're going to be talking about. And this time I feel like you had so many bold moves that you kind of glossed over quickly. And I'm like, okay, we need to dig a little deeper.
Dissect. Yeah. I don't want to say too much quite yet.
Well, of course, only share what you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the listeners and viewers, as well as myself, are curious about the triumph over tragedy that you had. So, what kind of led you to the situation where you're in the hospital, a little more details on, your self-abuse, your relationship, all of those things, just because I think so many people will hear this and be able to see themselves in some part of that and find the hope to see that where you are is so successful now.
So what led me to, even going back to, I remember so vividly, like being in a hospital bed, and before that, so I went to school to become a police officer. From the get-go, that's what I wanted. I told myself this is what I wanted to do. And years back, I completed that, I accomplished that, but I never progressed because I was in the wrong state mentally and physically. And I don't know how things happened, but things at that point led me to the wrong direction. I actually left home, ran away from home. I was like 17 because of physical abuse at home, seeing my mother, seeing her abusing my father, and I was being abused. And I mean, in all aspects, and that I told myself, this is not the way I want to live. And I remember vividly, and I know a lot of people probably have been through their own scenarios, whether they've physically been in abusive relationships or did something to some degree that put them in harm, because you're not consciously aware of it. We don't often know why we do the things that we do when we are feeling, maybe we're depressed or we're going through something, or we have a loss in our family. So at that time, I didn't have no loss, but actually I lost myself. So I remember trying to hurt myself. I remember using blades and razors. It was disturbing when I replay it in my mind, but that is my blueprint, and it has led me to being what I am today, of being such there's certain things I'm very disciplined about, and there's things that I promised myself that I would never do again. But in the past, I remember being so standing up, and I almost wanted to faint because I would hurt myself, on my arm with I remember a little razor or whatever they're called, those blades, and I would look for this, and I was so obsessed to doing this myself, and I was obsessed with the feeling of some sort of, there was the pain, but I had pain of seeing things, but I had pain within myself, but I wanted just to feel that it was that tender pain that I felt on my body. And it is disturbing to some degree, but these are things that do happen, and especially in our generation, but it's not often talked about. And going forward, when I left home, I ended up going to university. I did something totally different. I wanted to, again, discover myself and just jump in and see, all right, what's going to happen next. And I wasn't able to accomplish what I thought I wanted to, or what at that time, after going to police school. So I didn't do that, because I had all the drug abuse. I needed to wait about 5 years. But again, I wasn't consciously aware of that during the time. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to university and I'm going to take something else, and lived on res, and entered a relationship. And again, being very vulnerable. Most of us have been vulnerable to one point in our life. And that's personally what I believe. At that time, I was definitely seeking things that I didn't have. I was seeking filter and attention, and being in such a vulnerable state as a woman, you tend to want things, right? You think you want a partner, but you're obviously not wasn't ready. I was super young. And I entered this relationship very just blinded what it was going to happen, and you don't often know what will happen. So it was a very abusive relationship. And again, it was the hardest thing for me to get out of that, because I thought that was the norm for me. It was the norm, seeing my family, my parents, still being at like a very tender age. I was like still really young, and I thought this is the norm, and I still felt the pain. But something, and it's so weird to even saying it out loud, like, how does that feel good, and how do you escape from that? But it's the hardest thing to do that when you almost have nothing, and when someone is so what he did was hold me, like, how would I put this, he was like manipulating me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I call it as a narcissist. There's many narcissists that do that, manipulate other women or males or women or even family members that do that, so you can stay in that state or in that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it hurts, like it's hurting inside. So it was the hardest thing for me to move on to that. Once I moved on, I've living in a basement apartment. I was living in a basement apartment, and then I eventually lost that because I had like nothing to my name. I wasn't able to really survive. Like, I remember I had my cat, my two cats. One of my cats, I still have him right now, and I stayed in a park. And I remember sleeping there. And actually, like, when I say it and I think about it, and because I can see it so vividly, like taking my cat to a park with like those little carry-ons.
Yeah.
And I had whatever I had with me. Whatever I worked for that's what I had. I didn't have too much of the time. I had a really, like, it was a random, or how it happened, it was quite strange. And it was a robbery. So where I was living at the time, I got robbed after a month, and things just happened like one by one. And I remember I was like 21, and I did not know what I was going to do. And I had no purpose. At the time, I said, I have no purpose right now. And that was it for me. And then going back to that, stayed in the park for quite some time. And I ended up doing many things that were just definitely was not me at the time, was not something that I would ever see myself doing. And I had to find a place to live. And that time I was actually selling drugs. I did recreational drugs. I did that. And at the time it felt like this is what's good for me. Like, this was it was very disturbing, but it was a good time for me. That's what I said. It was a good time. I thought that was my way of life, to escape everything. And I did. And eventually I had shelter. And then I remember I was just working in an office at the time, and I was working part-time in the evening, and I suddenly just dropped, and I dropped the desk, and I felt my chest, my heart, suddenly just heart beating really fast, and I fell face first. And luckily, one of the agents that walked by, it was like in a real estate office, he walked by, and I was rushed to the hospital. And I was told when I got to the hospital that I was an emergency, of course, and I had to be seen right away because it was my heart. And that was the scariest time for me. And I remember putting on, you put on like the robes when you go to the hospital. They give you those blue robes. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Like, your back shows, your bum shows. I remember like tying it up. But, and I remember going in the bathroom, and I looked at myself, and I remember like almost like hitting myself, and I threw myself onto the wall, like throwing myself and saying, what am I doing? And again, it's something at that moment, like you can't think. You're not able to think clearly. Nothing is clear. It's just all a blur. Mm-hmm. And I did that, and because of that pain, the pain of like just how I felt, and was really upset with myself. Like, how did I end up here, and what was going to happen? Then eventually, what happened was a doctor came, looked at me, and asked me if I was ever raped. So with that being said, I was really confused. I had no idea what he was talking about. I was in tears. I was really confused, and I was just baffled by everything. And I said, no, like, I have no idea. I don't know. And I thought to myself, there's no way, because I was with this person for this amount of time. So I was kind of giving like my history, and it was really uncomfortable because I had a male doctor asking. And I just remember really good friends of mine that they're still here with me today. questioned me, and my heart rate, I remember it dropped at that time, but I was still hyperventilating. Like, it was a hyperventilating state. I was obviously like very depressed and going through that time when I was overdosed too. And from what I found out, then it was a time that I found out I was raped, basically, and I wasn't sure of that. And it was this is like the deepest secret that I haven't kept as a secret, that I do share with other people and other women. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping others. And I found out what the purpose was literally like last 2 weeks. I found exactly what my purpose is. As much as I could accomplish in 4 years of doing so many experiences, and whether it's like an education or not, or meeting, traveling, doing a bunch of different things, and coming out of that state of having no family since then. Like, I haven't had my family since at that time. Yeah, and it was the hardest thing for me to find out that my body and myself was completely taken away. And yeah, it's not an easy thing for a woman, and to start out as yourself, to finally find yourself and get away from people and things. And how do you do that? How did I do that? And what I tell people and how I did that was, well, I faced these things and noticed what was bothering me, or not what was bothering me, actually, what was harming me. And after that tragic time, you really need to face something with a trauma. The only way your life will change, personally, what I feel, is when you face a trauma, when you face something so hard that you find that you have, like, there's nothing in your life anymore. What do you have to live for? And when you face that trauma, you tell yourself you're going to do whatever it takes to turn it around. Whether you get in a car accident, and after my car accident as well, and everything kept happening, like one thing at another.
I was gonna say, what have you gone through? My
gosh, I know, it's a show. Yeah, people tell me, like, you need to have a show. I'm like, I love to talk. I would definitely love my own TV show. And it's crazy, like, how everything happened, like, one by one. And I don't understand why to this day, but I'm forever grateful for that, because that story I can take, whether it was me being high out of my mind and drunk and taking really things that, like, I mean, I would never even touch anymore, and being exposed to that. But I was exposed because I never had the relationships. So this is why relationships, success, and personal development are so crucial to me, because things I never had before. Right. Relationship with people, and I reach out to random people, and sometimes I go places and they're like, who is this girl? Like, she just smiling at me and talking to me. But the littlest things, like, that's me feeling this is what I need, this is what makes me feel good. And at the time of when I found out that I was sexually raped, or any woman will feel tragic, and it's not the easiest thing to go through, right? And at that time, like, you have no idea really, like, how it happened. You have all your questions and thoughts that come into your mind. So it's really about, like, how, like, what I tell people when they do ask me, the easiest way I can say it is reprogramming your mind, and with multiple ways, whether it's with reading, being exposed to new networks of people, and you really have to reprogram your mind for that, because if not, then you're in the same cycle. That's basically what it is. You're at the same static energy, or actually, like, without energy, you're at that mental state that it's just a static. You're not living for. There's really no purpose. So that's what I did. Despite, like, me going to school and pursuing several other things, like I mentioned earlier, it was reprogramming my mind, and really learning about how and why my mind and thoughts and actions, why I did certain things. So yeah.
I'm so glad that you were able to do that, and I really appreciate the bravery it must take to share all of those things, especially because you alluded to this earlier when you were talking about it, but from an outsider, when you think of someone cutting themselves, you'd think, why would anyone do that? Of course, we're pain avoidant generally. So it's hard to imagine why someone would seek that, or When there's a domestic abuse circumstance, it's often, well, why didn't she just leave him? Well, obviously it's hard, or people would just leave. And so many of the different choices that took you down paths that, you know, most little girls are probably not dreaming of someday being in, you know, living in a park with their cat. Although that, put that way, sounds kind of fun. But
when you say it like that, I'm like, you sort of live in the park as a little girl. Yeah, actually, well, that time when I was living, so I stayed at the park, and I ended up going inside to like a market, and it was just it was a food market, and I stayed there. There was Tim Hortons, and a friend now that we still keep in contact, and he found me there, and I remember I was in my pajamas, and I was just, and like I don't know at the time, like it's like success. Certain things are so easy, but why isn't everyone successful? Right. Because there's some people that are still in the state of mind that they can't get out of it. It's not an easy thing to do. Our brain is so powerful.
Right.
So I think only so many people can win and make it out of that of a state, and it takes a lot of time and maturity, and I think it's just time. Yeah.
So aside from time, what would you say flipped the switch for you and got you out of so many concurrent bad situations and into this place you are now with multiple businesses and the success that you're having now? What would you say you credit that change to?
I would say that, you know what, I met the right person, people rather, at the right timing, and I would say asking for help. I would feel that everything was on my shoulder because, again, I didn't have that support. And when I finally asked for help, when I finally asked for something so small that I thought I maybe didn't need, or just like the smallest thing, one thing led to another. So verbalizing what you need and not being afraid of what other people are going to say about it, and telling the person like how you're feeling. And I remember at the time I was just trying to earn a few more dollars, and I finally got back on my feet. And it took a lot of time. I'm starting from the ground. I started with just completely nothing, and my mind was still, okay, I want to go back at this, I want to do that. But it was like a complete shift after obviously being in the hospital and finally getting out after a few days and finding things out. It was a major shift for me, and I asked for help, and I received that, and one thing led to another, and I was exposed to like a community of women that I eventually started teaching the classes. It's an international, worldwide community of women, and it's great, and it really helped me plant the seed. So I would just say asking for help. I think that's what we need to do, is reaching out to people.
I am so terrible at that, and in small circumstances and in bigger circumstances. So my husband will watch me try to carry 25 things just because I refuse, and I'm independent. I can do it myself. He'll just like, help with that. And I'm like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like the bags, you're like, no, I'm good. Don't touch me. I'm good.
I have them all balanced this way, and if you take one of them, I'll drop the others.
Yeah, right. You're like, I'm strong. I can do it. No. Yeah, no, I get it.
What was this community of women?
So the community is, so they're called the Sterling Women, and they're all across like Canada and the US. And I met one of the women. I was helping her during her pregnancy, and that was like really inspiring for myself. I'm like, wow, like can I actually do this? I don't think I'm at the right state, but that really helped me. Like I needed that. I needed to be with that person at that time to help her go through something that she was trying to have. She was trying to have a child that she tried for like 2 years. And and it definitely helped. And when I told her, I said, what are you doing? You seem all put together. You seem like you got it all. And I asked her, and I asked for help. And I said, this is where I am right now. I'm sleeping at this place. This is where my shelter is. And it was such an honor to be a part of that journey with her during that, like the 12 months. And then I was introduced to the community. It started off as a home thing. So she's like, okay, if you don't mind, like, can you just come out this evening? And I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to come to like this house of all these women. Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I had no idea at the time. Like, I was a little bit skeptical. I wasn't as open-minded. I wasn't as excited because I'm just trying to reprogram my mind and get into the habits. Habits and routines are the biggest thing. Like, today I'm like, I have my habits, my morning and my evening habits, and it's the biggest thing for me, and I think it's for most successful people and people that are striving for something bigger than what they had in their past. It's about setting that our routines and becoming disciplined, and that leads to with maturity. And like, going back to that invitation, and I went over, and it was like 25 women, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and they all looked at me. And apparently I was like their guest. I'm like, I don't know what I'm getting into. Like, is this a cult? And I had like thoughts running through my mind, and I felt very uncomfortable because I didn't have any women in my life, and I didn't even know how important it was. I had no one in my life. If anything, I felt I was so vulnerable. I just wanted to be around a man that wanted to give me some love, like just hug me or something. I didn't actually want to have a close relationship because I never knew what it felt like to have that with a mother. And that was the biggest thing. When not receiving love from a woman to woman, I think you're not able to grow, because that's the strongest relationship, coming from a woman to woman, like having this conversation, whether you're a woman listening right now or just you and I. It's a powerful thing. Like, we can definitely move mountains together, and it really helped me. So I continued that path of being really open-minded and constantly being around the people that made me feel uncomfortable, which was just women. Like, it wasn't like anything specific. It was just being around women. I was uncomfortable. And that was it. They were all like my sisters and my moms and my aunts. And that's what I built, that community. It started off with that seed. Yeah.
That's amazing. A few times when you were talking about telling your story, you mentioned purpose and how it's come really strongly for you the last couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
What your purpose is.
Yeah, it's quite it's quite crazy, but I know my purpose is to serve and protect, and definitely inspire, for sure. Like, that's going to be something, part of my life, an ongoing thing. But it's to serve and protect, and I say that because there's so many incidents that happen. I didn't really get into that like those details, but going back to what I mentioned about 5-6 years ago now, when I went to school for police education, and that's what I wanted to become, like an investigator. I wanted to become a sheriff. Like, that was something I was really interested in, but I didn't, because family at the time, when living at home, they was like, no, you can't do this, or you don't have you're not capable. And I always had like these no's. And then my mom was like, okay, like, well, I finished off and I just didn't achieve it, and that's the entire story what I talked about earlier. And I wasn't I couldn't, because I had to wait. You do have to wait about like 5 years. And anyways, to make that's just a long story short, what happened the last year, I would say a year and a half ago, things were coming up in my life, and I had like no idea like why it was always happening, because things always happen to me. Like, I was like, okay, like this is it. But this is something that when things happen in our lives, I think you need to you really need to like dissect a little bit and understand like why they happen, like all the bad things that can happen. Why are these happening? Like, are we manifesting it? And I truly believe that we do manifest, and how what we say become our thoughts, become our feelings, and everything is just all connected. So all the bad that happened, because I was thinking one thing, it led to another. I didn't manifest anything good in my life. And when I say events, that certain things that happened the last year was me being there for people that I had, like, something would happen to someone across the street, whether it was like a fight, there was fires, and it was a pretty crazy things. There was a woman that fell, people almost like dying, need a CPR, and these things happened to me, like almost similar things in my life to some degree, right?
Right.
And I had like this instant reaction, like, I gotta go. Like, that was my thing. Like, I had to be there. I had to feel, I felt that was my purpose. I felt that was my duty to be there in any way possible, but knowing that I wasn't going to leave until I helped this person, until this was resolved, until they were fine. And it happened last month. So it happened at a mall, actually. It was about, like, anyways, the most recent one was in a mall. And the guy that was across the hallway, he ended up falling. There was a fight, but then the other guy, he fell face first, and he ended up he broke his chin. He needed stitches, man of the day. Like, he needed stitches. He had teeth broken.
Wow.
And I completely charged, and I told my friend was with me, and I said, I gotta go there. She's like, okay, like, she already knows. She knows that was my instant reaction, knowing me for so long and knowing these things that kept coming up in my life. And I would post them. On Instagram or Facebook, posted like when I was with the ambulance, and I stayed with a pregnant woman that she had abused, and I stayed with them until I knew someone with like legally, or like someone was going to come to take them, but I had to be there. I wanted to be that person, and just like the guy that when I found him in the mall, I stayed. I had gloves from someone from the store manager. She gave me like the latex gloves, and I said, okay, like I'm in for this, and I gave him CPR. I put my hands like in his mouth to see what was going on and if he needed stitches, and I saw that his chin was he had it was a split, like he cut his chin. Eventually I got his phone, I got his ID, and making the necessary steps to make the call, found out on his phone, waited for ambulance, and I knew I wasn't going to leave. Like, I can't tell you how much like it makes me feel. Even me saying it's just inside of me, that I like this feeling that I get. I'm like, I'm not leaving until I find out what's going to happen to this person, or if I can help them or figure it out. And that's my purpose, to serve and protect. And and it's so strange, like how, not strange, but it's amazing how I can express this to you, and to those that are listening and watching, that now all these things are showing up in my life. And literally last week, I really can say that I found my absolute purpose, and it's so compelling. And when you feel that, when you allow God, or whatever you think God is, or your universe, and whatever you believe in, when you finally allow yourself to, just allow your heart to just be open, and really look at the things that are going on in your life, and evaluate them, and see why are things happening. And maybe for me, it happened in a pattern. Like, it happened often, and I'm just like, people are like, you're at the wrong place, and I'm like, to myself, I'm like, I'm at the right place. I mean, people will tell me that, they're like, that's not your responsibility. I'm like, no, it is. Like, this is what I need to do. And when I was in Miami, when I was there last week, things happen like almost every day. When I was in an Airbnb or in a hotel, I had instant reactions. I got on my bed at almost like 4 a.m. There was a fire across my bedroom, and I had to break open the window. And I have actually footage of this too. And when I posted this on my Facebook, and there's certain things like I do post, and then because of privacy, I don't want to do that, because in case someone else see that. And I remember there was a fence, and I was trying to get in, and the girl was like, you can't get in here. I'm like, what? What do you say I can't get in here? I'm going to get in here. And I made it there. And the guy that was inside, it was actually a hostel. So in the first 2 days, I stayed in a hostel in Miami until I found, because the Airbnb that I wanted, whatever, there was nothing available. So I stayed there for 2 days. It's kind of cool. It was my first experience, whatever, meeting all these people. And right outside of my bedroom, that's where it happened. There was no smoke that I smelled. There was just something. I just remember jumping up. Like, I had the bed sheets, and I got up, and when she told me that, I said, I am going to make sure I get on to the other side, and broke into the window. And the guy had no idea like what was going on, but there was smoke in his hot, like the hotel, because he was so high at it. Like, he had like drugs. I don't know. Like, he was really, really high, because I smelled the weed in the hotel. And I remember that day, like, several things happened, and I couldn't sleep. I definitely cannot walk away, or I know that I couldn't go to sleep that day until I was able to get that person out, until I was able to call ambulance or just something. That was my my purpose.
Taken.
Yeah.
You're like a guardian angel.
No, it's people would say that, they're like, you're an angel, like, you were here and you were able to help. But I look at them like, and I walk away with feeling that it's something that it's my job that I have to do. I need to walk away feeling like I accomplished that. And it's interesting, because people will often judge. 5 years ago, when I would wear a uniform when I was in school, yeah, okay, like, that's so cool, you're wearing your uniform, this is what you want to do. But when they judge you on a day like just like today, like if they see you certain like in this image, the way I look today, and I'm going to say it like that because people have judged at that moment. But once you do something, we live in a world of it's all judgments in the physical appearance, and seeing someone's like 5'4", somewhat petite, but they don't see this other side of you. And even because I'm in martial arts, I've been training Muay Thai for a while now, and people judge that. They're like, "What you do?" And then you show them, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like what?" And that's what I mean. Like, it's something that I've always thought was so funny, because when she said I couldn't get up to the other side, and I'm like, why? She's like, you can't do that. Yeah, she's like, you can't do that. And she looked at me. I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you know like I am a Spider Woman. I will get up there. So it's just like that challenge and that investigation part of it, and me helping the person is what I really like. I discovered that there was several things that happened while I was away during that time, and I simply went there for training. At Lucky's Muay Thai gym, and I needed to recharge to finish working on my book. No expectations, nothing, but I enjoyed every bit of those challenges. It helped me. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you've obviously had a lot of experiences, and I'm going to agree with whoever these people are who are telling you that you need a show or a movie about your life or something. It seems like there's quite a few action-packed moments, at least.
Yeah.
What's the scariest thing you've ever done?
Hey, maybe we can start off like maybe a show. Series.
Right. So I'm curious, what's the scariest thing you've ever done?
I think, the scariest thing when I was my second time giving CPR, and this woman was like literally on her few last breaths, and I helped her. She was on her last, like she was breathing very, very rapidly. It was very heavy. And I remember just getting out, like I went just in the grocery store, and this was after, school at that time. And I get out, and the lady she was with her daughter. Yeah, she was with her daughter, and she fell. Again, another person fell on a concrete, on like sort of like on the close to the parking lot. Anyways, and she fell there, and I looked at her, and I had no idea, and I didn't walk away. I just looked for a moment, and I noticed her breathing, and her daughter said, "We need help." And and I have like my training, and I said, I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna just take it on the challenge. And actually 2 weeks before that, luckily I had my refreshment challenge, so not the challenge, my CPR. I did my course again. So it was perfect timing.
Fresh in your mind.
I was like, whoa, okay, I can take on this one. But regardless, even if I didn't, I would probably still take it on. But I'll take that responsibility. Like, that's what I mean. Is not everyone will do that. Like, I just have, it's an alert. Like, Mandie, like I can't describe the feeling or in words what I just say. Alert, like it's a reaction that it's like no fear, no doubt, my responsibility, I'm going for it. That's just how I explain it. And the scariest thing was like, okay, I'm taking on this challenge now, like in my mind, challenge, haha, like this is what I want, my responsibility, I gotta save her life. And she actually stopped breathing for a few seconds, and I had footage of that after when she went into ambulance, and she once doing CPR, mouth to mouth, she had a lot of like fluid coming out, and that was really scary for me because I wasn't sure if she was gonna make it, and I took it on, and everyone, like, there was like a pack of people obviously like standing around to see what's gonna happen. Who knows? Probably somewhere online. Who knows, right? But my moment, like that time, I said I took this on, and this is what I need to do, and I'm not leaving. I'm definitely not leaving. And her daughter thanked me after finally ambulance came. She had to go to the hospital, and I stayed there until she went on to the hospital on the stretcher. But that was the most scariest part for me, because it's like I took that on, and I wasn't sure she stopped for a few moments. And I've never given the mouth to mouth before. I've only did just like the hand CPR. But
Wow, I can't even imagine that. So obviously in that circumstance, you pretty much had to continue doing what you're doing.
You have to. Once you're there,
depended on it. But I'm wondering if any of the listeners are thinking of doing something scary, or they're in a rough situation, which you're no stranger to, how would you recommend them pushing past fear? Maybe it's to leave somebody who is narcissistic and manipulating them, or you could come up with any number of situations that are scary. How would you recommend that somebody get through and push past fear to get themselves into a better place?
Yeah, like I think if it's in a relationship, if you are currently, or maybe you are not in that relationship, and then I'm going to just talk about like romantic relationships with male, female, or whatever, wherever you are in the relationship, if you are dealing with it right now, and how to get past that, because it's very, very common. And again, I don't think it's talked about often, that manipulating people that we have in our life and people that we care for with things, like tangible things, like buying things. It could be like something tangible. It could be an emotion, right? And this happens so often, and we don't even notice it, and we don't talk about it. And when we do, we're like, oh, haha, like you have that aha moment, like, wow, I'm going through that, and it's a hard thing to get past that. And my tip or my suggestion would be, I would say what I did in the past was I told the person how I was feeling, but sometimes that's not always the best way, because if you're in that situation, when you do that, there you might again say, okay, like I'm going to do this for you or give you this, and then you're still getting abused. Like it happens, we are abused in whether it's in social media world and our relationships with our friends. Like there's some sort of abuse that we don't always notice it, and in a way of, it could be you're in a very vulnerable state. So I think initially saying how you feel at that time and seeing if that step works, and if it does, then that's great. And when it does work, when you tell your partner or your friend or your family, this is how I'm feeling, and when they accepted that, or when they acknowledged it, you can then say, I need to make these, like what I did, I need to make these changes for myself. And I did that in my, like after my past, that relationship, I did that after dating, and it just didn't work out for me. And I felt that I was being told or being in very uncomfortable situations. And I said, I'm like, this is not something that I want to take part of. And so I think it's just about like verbalizing that and being aware of what your thoughts are at that time. Like, is it something that is beneficial for you? So what we often think that things are good for us is not always the right thing. And it's because we are lacking something, and especially in one, like with women, or women in business like ourselves, or entrepreneurs, sometimes we go through our obviously we're human, we all go through our tough times, male and female, and we lack things in our life. Like some days I'm like, oh, I'm so lonely, but I have all these people in my life. But there's days that I feel like I do feel lonely. I feel I can do doing a million things, but now I'm understanding myself a lot more, that I just need to, again, constantly reach out to people, go back to where it all started with, whether it's the women in my life, whether it is things like, writing, as an author, things that are in like passion for me, and help. Like when I see something that I told you, like whether it was like in danger, that is something that is a complete package for me. That I get everything from that. And that's what I discovered like last 2 weeks. Everything was happening all over again. And I discovered it's so noble for me. Like it's so powerful that I get all these things from, like everything that all that stuff that happened in the past, I get everything from serving and protecting someone. Aside from like all my passions, and that my passions lead to me educating myself. So whether I'm passionate about writing, I'm educating myself, and I'm passionate about whether it's I'm creating something or painting. I'm just learning about myself, and that's it. I think that answers.
It.
I don't know. I think that answers the question.
No, I think it's fantastic. And I think that that's really helpful. And it really goes in line with what you said changed a lot of things for you. So you said that when you started to ask for help, and that's basically verbalizing your desire, that is when things really started to change for you. So if someone's in a rough place, verbalize your desire, ask for help, maybe not from the person who's potentially, taking advantage of you, but realizing that there are people like you who are here to serve and protect and help people. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I also think like when you're so doing that, it may not be with that person that you're with, or maybe your family, or it could be your friend, but you can reach out to other people. Like we have so much around us right now with technology that like, I mean, I don't know, like you can just message anyone. Like I message people here and there, they message me, and if they need a chat. And the funny thing is, like, you probably won't ever speak to them. You maybe won't even meet them. You don't have to, but you can. Like we have those tools. It's on our fingertips, so you can go to anyone for anything. You can make and create anything you want. You can, like, whatever it is, you can create your life, right? And that's when I'm painting, and I love painting. It's something that I love creating, and or drawing, whether it's blogging. And I'm just thinking about that. It's like just creating my world. Like this is how I want to live. Like me, moving in May. I'm just writing. It's me just writing in my notebook. That's all I'm doing, and I'm manifesting that.
That's amazing. So I want to get more to your move in a second, but between then and now, you gave such great advice on how to push past fear. And throughout the time we've been chatting, you gave other amazing advice too. I'm wondering if you have anything else that you think someone might need to hear today, or a lesson that you've learned recently that you wish you'd learned long ago, or just something impactful maybe in your personal development recently that you can share. Any sort of advice that you just want to pass along.
So the advice I want to give anyone listening or watching this is to understand, not only to understand, but to listen to the things that our thoughts are telling us, because we have thoughts that come in day in and day out. We think about things, we're driving, just like, I don't know, maybe you feel like the same as well. Like you could either be just at home or doing some work, and something just pops up, where you can, before you go to bed, things pop up in our mind. There's a specific reason, and it can be because you're constantly replaying it. But why are we replaying it? So I think, and I want to just share this with you and give you that advice and tip of listening to what our thoughts are telling us. There's so many bad that can happen in our mind, and again, that can manifest to things that can be a reality. So if something that is not quite normal for you to feel, or normal for you to, something is telling you something you should be doing, not or necessarily you should be doing, or that next step. Sometimes you can be just like very casually maybe working on something, and I give that example, and a distraction will pop up, and the distractions can lead to maybe you're worrying about something, or you're thinking about someone. And the things that, if you're always worrying about something, what is it? Figure that out. What are you worrying about? What is it that's bothering you? And perhaps maybe if you don't like writing, you can talk to someone about that, writing something down or speaking to someone, the things that are perhaps stopping you from getting to where you need to be. I think that the thoughts are the main thing, because for me, that talking to myself, I mean, I would talk to myself internally and then say things out loud of, okay, I am happy. And when you say these things, and it sounds crazy, but this is all psychology. This is when you constantly say, I am happy, I am successful, your mind automatically gets that shift. Like automatically you feel that, like it's just inside, you feel like you are happy, and nothing can happen. There's nothing that can happen. There's nothing that even needs to happen. So talking to yourself and not being afraid to talk to yourself, because you're the only person that can change everything within you and around you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice. So you casually mentioned earlier in the list of your accomplishments that you have written a book. Can you tell us a little bit more about the first book you wrote, and then you said you're working on your second one? I'd love to hear about those.
Yeah, so my first book, it's an international book, and it's based on, it's The Minimalist Guide of Healthy Eating. The reason why I wrote that book is during the time I was studying nutrition, because I was training my clients in the fitness industry. And I mean, speaking for myself, I wasn't a healthy eater. And that book really gives formulates detailed ways on how to help people, whether they are new into getting into like a healthy lifestyle. And it formulates very easily if you're going for groceries, like what to buy and what not what to buy, but what are the good things for you and what are more beneficial. So I kind of break it down in ways of like, you have your different health, your food groups, and here are your fats and why people think fats are so bad for you. And I break it down like in those ways, and everything that I've learned, whether it's like in a personal and when during like the course that I took in education, I put everything together and wrote that book and how it helped me changing my lifestyle with foods and with herbs and with essential oils. And these are all organic things. And I became like super like organic after everything. People were like, wow, you did like a sudden change. But because I had that time, I was like on the floor, like almost, I would say, like I feel like I was dying. And after being like, after getting sexually, it's basically rape, and I wasn't taking care of myself, and I was doing all these things. I never knew what health felt like. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, like health. Like 6 years ago, 7 years, I would be eating Big Macs and burgers, and then I would go either smoke and drink and take a line of it. That was it. So I said, when things turned around, even if it's something like such a small, it's only like 25 pages. It's very, very detailed, but I wanted to give a little tidbit to people that are thinking about just changing their lifestyle. And it's very, very easy, but we make it so complex. And certain oils and treatments that have helped myself, even sleeping, because I used to have insomnia and I wasn't able to sleep. And I know a lot of people that take they take melatonin, which is it's definitely not a good thing to take before you go to bed or to help you sleep. And I talk about why magnesium, like things like that, why they are so beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me because I had insomnia for a long time as well. And I couldn't do melatonin because I would have a melatonin hangover. Like I would wake up and feel tired for hours after.
Yeah.
I'm better off when I just don't sleep because then at least I don't feel that tired.
Yeah.
But when I started taking magnesium, totally different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, even for all the ladies like out there, magnesium helps when on your cycle. And that's what it's used for. Yeah, like it helps before you go to bed. Take that before you are training. Take it before bed. And ladies, take it while you're on your on your cycle. And these are natural things, and it's okay to talk about it. And if you're not having good sleep, we're trying to work day in and day out. And whether you have your office job or you have your day job or we're entrepreneurs, and we're all going for the same thing. And it's definitely not easy out there, but it's a lot of fun when you're with the right people, when you connect with the right people, and you're taking care of yourself. And it's truly a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So what book are you working on now?
Yeah, so I'm working on, this book is all geared towards leadership, business, and self-love, self-help, and the majority of it's mental, and focus on like more of the mental wellness of it. I have 4 other authors. I have 2 other authors and 3 guests in my book that I will be interviewing, as well as they will be sharing their story, because I think it's not about me. It's not about my story. I mean, I'm sharing my story in the book through the chapters. I have 7 chapters in the book. Each are just broken down. Like one is for leadership, and so the second chapter is leadership based on that, and it's called the Good Company. So why is this? Like things are, why is it important to have good company? Why is leadership important? Self-love, and I talk a lot about psychology as well. And again, taking everything that I've learned and putting that into perspective, and how I think just even one person reading it, what they can get from it. And I want to be able to have other people tell their story, because again, it's not about me. Someone else can relate to the other girl writing in the book. So I'm giving them that moment to shine in the book with me, and giving them the freedom just to write based on the topic that they want to talk about, and share that. And and people can connect with them. And it's all about the development within our daily lives that we struggle with. And why I think leadership is so important, and leadership in relationships between a male and female, and how females can be tend to be very dominating. We don't notice it, and how this can interrupt our relationships. Yeah. So yeah.
That sounds fantastic. And then what books would you recommend on any topic, but maybe books that have impacted you that you've read that you would recommend to other people?
Yeah. So the first one, it's called Money Matters. I don't remember her name. It's by Gail Van something.
We'll make
she has
sure
like one of those like
yeah.
So that one I really like. It's she had like a TV show as well, and she's like all like finance guru, and her books are great because I like that it's very like it's like just based on like reality. Like it's like two different, like there's conversations in the book, and it's just like two people talking, and you have like several stories, and I really liked it. It definitely helps anyone that wants to grow in their finances, that has a goal of investing and really like taking control of your finances and how you can upscale and leverage. So that's the first one. I got another one. The second one, I'm sure we all have heard of it. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I love that one. Like, I mean, if you've read it and if you haven't, check it out. It's definitely a great, no matter what you're doing, for someone that's in business or not. I think it's just a great tool, and it goes all with leadership and I think really listening to people. And again, it's all with our, it's only our ears, like active listening, because sometimes I'm completely guilty of it. I will listen to someone and I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm like, I have something better to say, or I'm something, and I'm like so eager to say it because I'm always excited. Like my life, I'm always just like, I'm just excited. I'm like a very bubbly personality, so I kind of like had to take it down a notch and listen. And that's what helped me, whether it's like building a network, you want to build a network, helping with your business. And last one is The Battlefield of the Mind. I think it's by, I don't know, Joyce Meyer. Minor. So that's a really good one. My friend, she just actually lent that to me. She believes, so she's Christian. I was raised Roman Catholic, and this book doesn't necessarily, it's not about religion, but I say this because if you do search it, it's, it kind of like, the topics will sort of like gear to a little bit of like religion, but it's much more than that if you're open-minded to it. I practice Buddhism for about 2 years now. I don't consider myself Buddhist, but I am very open-minded about, not open-minded about it. I meditate. It's something that I've been learning about meditation, meditation is just being mindfulness. So the battlefield of mind is all about, it's being mindful. Being a Buddhist or practicing Buddhism, people are like, they would ask me like, what are you? Are you a Buddhist? Well, no, it doesn't mean that. Anyone can be a Buddhist. Anyone can practice Buddhism. And really the one word is mindfulness. It's being mindful in your life and the things you do and the things you say and how to be present. And so this book is definitely, it's a great one, Battlefield of the Mind.
That sounds fantastic. The two that I haven't read sound like two that I need to read. Thank you for that. So now I'm curious, because I'm sure that since you're in Canada, the laws are different with real estate. And your other business up there is a gym. So what are you planning to do as far as those two businesses? And then when you get to Miami, are you keeping those going and working them from afar? Are you
okay? So this is exciting.
Fresh? Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where that exciting time comes. So in May, I'm going on for my training again. So so it would be a CPI. If you know that is, as a child protector and investigator in the U.S. we would call it that. In Canada we don't like it. It's more of, in Canada it's what is it called? An investigator, I guess you just. It's like like you work with exactly. Yeah, you just work with police officers, and something happens to someone, like whether there's like with fraud or they get abused or children. Or families, and you investigate what happened. And so I'm doing my training all over again. So typically you get physical training and you get go through all that. I did that years back, and I'm doing that again. And I'll be residing in Miami, which is super exciting. Then I'm finishing off my master's at FIU, like second top universities in Miami. And it's something that I really wanted to do for a long time. I almost doubted myself because I'm like, I'm 28. I don't want to go back to school. I did all I know, like I did it, and I was like, no. But the reason why I'm doing this is because in order for me to get to the ultimate goal of becoming a sheriff, because that's definitely like it's the ultimate goal, and it's just crazy. When I say that, I tell people like they think, oh, that's too extreme, but I'm doing it so I can. After I do that, I would be on a visa during that time while I'm training, and during the investigate. So while you're after training, I would be working in the field as an investigator. But in order to become a sheriff or a police officer, even here, you need to be a U.S. or Canadian citizen. So I'm going to do that in the U.S. and I'm going to be I'll definitely within the next 2 to 3 years obtain U.S. citizenship, and then I can get that. Yeah.
Miami.
So Miami, I have been to California. I love California. It's definitely something, especially San Diego. Love it there. Absolutely love it. Miami, every time I went there, I felt, I was in Fort Lauderdale. I didn't really like it. But when I was closer to, especially the South Miami, downtown, I saw myself working in the field of, again, as an officer. I've connected with certain officers and investigators, CPIs there, and I really liked everything that I was feeling. I'm going to different workshops and meeting them at different meetings, and I said I can see myself here, and I have really nothing that's holding me back. I have friends in the U.S. as well, especially in San Diego. I love it, and my friends are there too. And in Miami, I met some really great people, built some really great relationships, and I figured, why not? If this is a university I wanted to go to and I want to finish this off, I have I'll get that training done, and I would finish. It would be about a year to get my master's, and the reason why I need to do this is so I can get on to getting my U.S. citizenship. So it's all a process, right?
Yeah.
And like in the past, I didn't want to do, like last year, you told me this, I didn't really feel like it, but now it's like complete executing. I'm doing I'm doing whatever it's taken. I've been on calls, and I've been making sure everything is like methodically planned, whether it's like with paperwork and school stuff. And I really don't want to, but I need to, and definitely where I want to see myself. So I'm excited.
Cool. I love that. Shaquille O'Neal, you know who Shaquille O'Neal is?
Yeah.
So he works with the Miami police, so maybe you'll...
Oh, yeah, wow. I met several of them. They're great. They're awesome. They gave me some tips, and we connected, and it's great. And I just need to be, so while I'm there, I'm going to be working, and then I'll be like volunteering and doing as much as I can while I'm in school, the investigation side of things. And then after I complete that, then I can apply. Once I get my U.S. permanent residency there as a citizen, I can apply and go from there. But that's ultimate. That's what, like, it feels. It's just the fire inside. It's crazy. Like I always say, like, fuel the flames. I think my hashtag, and that's what it is. When you get that compelling feeling that you feel like you're just unstoppable, like there's just so much, feel like victory. I don't know, it's great. And I think we all feel like that in one way, or we all will experience that. Some have, some haven't. And if you haven't, you will feel like that, whether it's in a relationship you are not in, you will feel that love. You will have that family you want, or you will have that special, that a job that not yet, it's the career or that business, whether you want to build like a 6-figure business, and you're going to get all that. And it comes through time and trust. Yeah.
I love that. So this is a perfect segue for my favorite question, which is the last question. If 8-year-old Jessica had a crystal ball and could see 28-year-old Jessica now, and everything that happened from there to there, and then of course, you kind of have your next year and a half or so kind of planned out, your foreseeable future, where you're headed, on a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would little Jessica be to see Jessica now?
Oh yeah, she would be ecstatic. She would be like a little cheerleader, for sure. And the little Jessica, and I have it written in my book, and little Jessica tells herself to to do the best that she can, and everything that she never had is everything that she's going to work for. So everything that I always wanted a family, and it's almost hard because our generation is like, we're always go, 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 and we all want to succeed and win, but I truly want a family because I never had that. And I want to have that noble, that position in my life that I can wake up saying, I am so eager to help this person. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have no fear, no doubt that I'm going to be there. And little Jessica would just be on that cheerleader, like, yay.
That's amazing. So would you say an 11? You'd be at an 11?
Oh, yeah. What was it, 11 to what?
1 to 11.
1 to 11. Yeah, she would be 11.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and for what you're doing in the world and the people that you're inspiring. I really just think it's fantastic, and it's been such a pleasure finally virtually meeting you, at least. And I look forward to meeting you in person. And
we're totally going to meet.
Yes.
For sure. we got to definitely do it. I'm going to be away on February 22nd. So I would love to meet you, and I'm super excited. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. I again hope you all the best of success, and again, faith and believing in yourself, and trust where you are is exactly where you are meant to be. And it may be tough, or even if it's great now, it's like take off. So just trust it. Yeah.
I told you she's been through or experienced just about everything. I don't know how she's able to fit all of that into her 28 years so far on this planet, but I am completely amazed. I'm also excited to share that Jessica and I have some projects in the works to collaborate once she is in the United States. So stay tuned for that. And if you have any suggestions of things that you would like to see us work on together, or topics that you think we would be able to speak well together on, or that you would like to learn from the two of us, please let us know on social media. By the way, I did forget to ask Jessica where she can be found online, but worry not, that along with how you can win a copy of her book on nutrition for minimalists are available in the show notes at www.mandiem.com/episode 141, since this is the 141st episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are subscribed so that you don't miss out on Jessica's challenge that will come out this Friday, as well as future bold move makers that I will be celebrating in Monday interviews. I hope that you share this with your friends, because I would like to impact as many people as possible. And since Jessica's been through so many different things and come out on the other end stronger, I know that there are people who will hear it and be able to identify with her story and be encouraged and empowered by it. So make sure you please share it. I would love it if you also left reviews on iTunes. That helps get the message out to Apple that we're a podcast worth listening to, and then Apple will encourage others to listen to it as well. So I would really appreciate that. And if you think you would be a good guest or know somebody else that would, I would love it if you headed over to mandiem.com/guest, GUEST, and fill out the form so I can get all of your information and the Cliff's Notes version of your story to figure out whether or not you or your friend would be a good guest and a great story to share on the podcast and inspire some other people. All right, that concludes it for today. Stay tuned for Friday for Jessica's challenge. And as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.